Coming up on FaceTime.
Sen-yat said, save China through aviation, and he became the first of Hawaii's people to get a land plane license and a seaplane license to fly. I thought he cared a lot about people. He cared on the well-being of all people. It was an easy thing for young Ahin to name his youngest son, Sen-yat's first name, in reverse, right. Yat-sen, Sen-yi.
In the process of Chinese modernization, the Democratic Revolution of 1911, led by Sen Yat-sen, values an irreplaceable importance in Chinese history. For it overthrew the Qing dynasty and established the First Republic, namely the Republic of China. Sen Yat-sen, referred to as father of the nation by the Chinese, hoped that democracy could take root in Chinese context and make China a powerful nation. Thousands of motivated young men answered Sen Yat-sen's call to save the nation. Young Sen-yat was one of them, who returned from Hawaii, where he was born and grew up, and later sacrificed his whole life for the revolution. With his revolutionary enthusiasm and the advanced technology learned in the US, he overcame great difficulties and managed to build the first Chinese airplane, and later was hailed as the father of aviation in China by Sen Yat-sen. During his short life of 32 years, there are fascinating stories about this great young man. Today on FaceTime, they will be told by his grandson, Dr. Lee Wai-do.
So how many times have you come to Guangzhou?
About a dozen times over the last 30 years. And I've been coming to China quite a bit, about 60 times. Besides up north, also to Hainandao.
Great. And then you were from Zhongshan originally.
我是中山人.
So very familiar to you, right? Every time you went back to Zhongshan.
Well, yes.
Has Zhongshan changed a lot since the last time you visited?
Day by day, in every way, better and better.
Better and better.
Clean, beautiful, polite, respectful, as Guangzhou is too.
One of the main reasons that have brought Lee Wai-do back to China is to track down materials concerning his grandfather, Yang Sen-yat, and his stories only known by the locals in his hometown. Lee Wai-do has been constantly working on it for more than 50 years.
We're inspired by his young efforts. You know, he was born and raised in Hawaii. He was the son of a millionaire, self-made man that came from Buktoi, a village in Zhongshan, very poor, made a lot of money and devoted his money and his children's life, my grandfather's life, to helping rebuild a new China. And his story is very inspiring to me and my family, and I take great heart from it.
On this trip, Lee Wai-do visited the Memorial Museum of Generalissimo Sen Yat-sen's mansion, where the first airplane factory of China was formerly located. And his grandfather Yang Sen-yat worked as the chief of aviation and the chief executive of the airplane factory.
Sen Yat-sen had said, build China through aviation. And aviation was a brand new technology. He went to study aviation in less than 12 years after the discovery of flight.
Wow.
Within 12 years, the new technology was already in the air, and Sen-yat said, save China through aviation, and he became the first of Hawaii's people to get a land plane license and a seaplane license and to fly.
Wow.
He went to New York State, Curtis Aviation School, and got one of the very early pilot's license and aircraft engineer license as well. Young Sen-yat, I imagine, was a risk taker. He was an adventurer. He was one that had a vision for the future and one that wanted to embrace new technology to help him get to the future. And that future was a united China with a prosperous population, and that was a republic as an example for all of Asia.
头一等的强国，那么为什么我们这个国家现在变成这个地步呢？这个是我们这个国民最重要的。
After listening to Sen Yat-sen's talk on the revolution back in Hawaii, young Sen-yat, a youth then, was impressed and decided to join. He studied and graduated from Lolani School and in 1909 the College of Hawaii. Responding to Sen Yat-sen's policy of Save China through aviation, he then studied mechanics and aviation in California and at the Curtis Aviation School in Buffalo, New York. After he received his pilot's license in both land and seaplane, he went to China in 1918 and organized China's first Air Force. Besides, he traveled to many countries to raise funds for the Chinese Air Force and recruited some patriotic young overseas Chinese to return to China to work on this.
I thought he cared a lot about people. He cared on the well-being of all people. And Sun Yat-sen was building a new republic, the first republic of all of China. As well, he was wanting to see, I think, a unification of his homeland, of his Laojia. And, you know, China during the Generalissimo period had fallen into a warlord battlefields, and that was reminiscent of the partitioning of China by the foreigners. China needed to become a nation to become strong. And with its strength, the dignity of the Chinese and the respect from the foreigners was possible.
So your grandfather completed his education mostly in the States, right?
Yes.
Or entirely in the States?
But he kept studying, kept learning, and he traveled recruiting Wachow, especially Wachow, for the Air Force in California, Hawaii, of course, Oregon, Washington, Mexico, and Japan to come and build an Air Force in China.
Yang Sen-yat's father, Yang Ahin, left his hometown Zhongshan and sought fortune in Hawaii. He became wealthy as a rich farmer in the late 19th century, making his name in Hawaii shortly before Dr. Sen arrived in the kingdom as a student. When Dr. Sen returned to Hawaii in 1894 after his medicine practice, the Qing dynasty had suffered yet another defeat at the hands of the Japanese, and Dr. Sen had come back for a revolution. That was when Yang Ahin hosted Dr. Sen at his home and served as a treasurer for Sen's Hawaii-based Revolutionary Society and donated huge sums of money to aid Sen's plan.
Yang Ahin was a very close devotee of Sun Yat-sen. He was born in Buktoi, Beitai, a village of Zhongshan, and left at about the age of 18 to come to Hawaii. He was a good friend of Sun Mei, the brother of Sun Yat-sen, and they both became wealthy in Hawaii. And it was an easy thing because of Sun Mei being very close to Yang Ai-hin, it was easy thing for Yang Ai-hin to name his youngest son Sun Yat-sen's first name in reverse, Yat-sen, Sen-yi.
That's really how your grandfather's name came about.
He was greatly inspired by Sun Yat-sen's vision and devotion to building a new China.
Now you're watching FaceTime. Today, Li Waidu, the grandson of young Sen-yat, hailed as father of Chinese aviation by Sun Yat-sen, is sharing stories of his grandfather, including his family history and how the family evolved under the impact of Sun Yat-sen. Young Sen-yat had sacrificed everything to Sun's career, even his young life. In 1923, in defense of Sun Yat-sen, Yang, at the age of 32, was killed by a bomb explosion in a rebellion planned against Sun. Sun Yat-sen conferred him as the general of aviation. To remember Yang, Young Sen-yat Primary School was built in his hometown, Zhongshan, with many efforts from his wife, Chen Du-chun. She did this in spite of many great difficulties.
She wanted always to build education, to cause education for the new generation to carry on the spirit. So when Yang Shen-yi passed away and Sun Jung-san had said, let's build schools in his name, she wanted to be the principal and became the principal of the schools. And later, some of the assets of Yang Ai-hin was donated by my uncle, Tim Oy, to build the Shen-yi Middle School, and he donated through the Yang Ai-hin estate $500,000 US back in 1983.
And where is your grandmother from originally? She's also from Zhongshan?
From Zhongshan.
So a woman with so much determination and strength, right?
Women, Dr. Sun Yat-sen said, hold up half the sky, you know. And the success of every man is a good woman behind him. And I should say, I hope the success of every woman is also because of a strong man behind her.
So we are all together. We are all in the same boat. Yeah.
All
Men and women, we should work together.
Yes, together.
Chen Du-chun's daughter, Florence Yang, and Li Waidu's mother inherited the family's spirit and continued to contribute to the community through education. But surprisingly, she was left behind at Hawaii when her parents came back to China to help build a new republic. Though Florence later studied Chinese and Chinese culture in order to keep her Chinese roots.
Talk about the surprising thing that I learned from my mother. My mother said, I never knew my mother. She said, they left me behind. They went to China and left me to grow up with grandfather, Yang Ai-hin, in Hawaii. Why? Why did they leave me behind and take the rest of the family to China? And that question has been turning in my mind as the question, why did Yang Shen-yi devote his life and his family, in effect, to helping build new China? And so that has been my quest of searching the reasons, the values that gave him that determination and resolve to build airplanes to save China. And my mother was raised in Hawaii. Her twin sister was raised here in Guangzhou and Zhongshan. After my grandfather died as well. And yet the two of them being fraternal twins, not the same eggs, separate eggs, were so much alike. So my mother and my NTYC were wonderfully kind-hearted people that cared for the community. Share with me right now something from my mother. My mother left for me this cicada, the bug that is always renewed, reborn. So it reminds me, no matter what the past was, even if it was a bad past, reborn, be born again, and make yourself anew as the cicada comes anew. We are always able to be forgiven. And the world is good, life is good.
It's clear that Sen Yat-sen's impact on this young family has been passed along different generations. Later, Lee Wai-do set up the Dr. Sen Yat-sen Hawaii Foundation, aiming to preserve and chronicle the activities of Dr. Sen Yat-sen and his supporters in Hawaii, and to promote his great legacy in the modern era.
Second, third generation Chinese can't read, write, or speak Chinese. And so there might be documents and pictures at home that we can't understand what they are. They're old, the old world, old-fashioned, leave it behind. So I felt it's very important that we save history. Even if we can't personally read it, if it has the potential of being historically important, we must preserve it. And so I started the Sen Yat-sen Hawaii Foundation. If I can show you that book here. And we created a foundation to preserve the history of Sen Yat-sen in Hawaii. And it turns out there was quite a bit of it. And we identified the many people who contributed to Sen Yat-sen and his 6 trips to Hawaii, uncovering his high school records as a young student named Tai Chu. And we also discovered that as a 13-year-old boy, having come to Hawaii knowing no English, after 2 years, he won a prize in English. And the prize was given to him by the King of Hawaii, King Kalakaua. We want to see that same prize given to today's 13-year-olds in Guangdong, as do all the young people in China. You know, take a risk, be creative, be collaborative, be compassionate, and be competent.
Right. And not afraid of making mistakes.
Yes, because when you're young, you can fall and get up easily. And but never give up. Never give up.
Next episode. Growing up in such a prominent family, what a life path has Lee Wai-do taken himself?
Barack Obama went to this school, my high school. He went to Columbia, my college, and he went to Harvard Law School, just as I did. And I went before him, my way. He followed.
Lee Wai-do fell in love with surfing when he was a child. Despite suffering from polio, he decided to get into it.
And I love to surf big waves. And I would think it's perfectly fine to wipe out, to take a risk and lose and fall off, because you're still alive. I didn't drown.
And the last thing,
contest.
Exactly, yeah, definitely, love contests. And this one also was written by Dr. Sen Yat-sen.
People around the world, including China, will aspire to the sky and break through heaven and soar higher than heaven so you can achieve your dreams. You set your goal, and if you resolve your goal, resolve that that is going to be your goal, you're going to be free.